Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Beresney wins on debut.
Shanaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Season 12 sees a new man. It's Shadow. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jensen is the new king of PlayStation.
From the back row of the grid, against all odds, Nicholas Longy wins the title.
Goes past the safety car.
What has gone on here?
Bourbon spins.
Stunning move from the Spaniard.
He's taken out Rambo. Here comes Longy.
Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Beresney wins on debut.
Shanaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Right. Hopefully that is the aging issues out of the way. Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to WOR. We are here tonight for season number 13. It is round 12, I believe, of the championship as we take in, of course, the Japanese Grand Prix. Nearly forgot the track there. The Japanese Grand Prix from the Suzuka International Circuit. My name is James Head. I'm going to be taking to the stream, of course, as always, as your lead commentator on a fine Friday night. And joining me in the commentary box on the right-hand side in his beautiful satin pyjamas, it is Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, I'm enjoying my new pajamas. They're very soft and they're quite cool, actually, which is quite nice. I like a cool pajama set, so that's good. Anyway, moving on into what we're actually here to talk about tonight. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting race, definitely. Suzuka International Circuit is a favourite amongst a lot of people. It's a proper driver's circuit. It's definitely a unique challenge when it comes to circuits. Obviously, we kind of think of unique challenges nowadays as street circuits, but in terms of a permanent circuit, this is definitely one of the more unique ones out there, and we see a lot of modern day permanent circuits being based off of this. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be really exciting to see what we can do tonight in Japan. And championship wise, I think things keep coming back and forth. We keep talking about Rowan and Nemaya being country miles ahead of the rest of the field, but their poor attendance recently has meant that more people are now right back in the thick of it. So that is championship wise. There's a lot more for us to talk about tonight.
Yeah, definitely so, and a lot more for us to talk about as well, because it seems like a few of the drivers are doing IKO qualifying. Thanks, Storm, by the way, for that, if you are listening ever to this live stream. Rowan out on top, as Aiden has mentioned, on 116 points. Nemai in second. Basically, nothing has changed for the last 2 or 3 weeks between these guys in the top two. It was a good week for Jensen, though, of course, finishing second last week in third. He is tied, actually, with Steph on 92 points. They are definitely now within that championship fight. Kaufalidis didn't attend last week. Hopefully back this week. The Greek man, he is there in fifth on 90 points. Tom there in sixth on 72. He had a DNF. Was very unlucky, I've got to say, last week. We know he will come back to his best. He loves Japan, so hopefully Tom's going to be up there in terms of the qualifying and indeed the race. Krypton there in 7th on 64, Arocco in 8th on 54, then Jerry in 9th on 53, and Danny in 10th on 44, along with Smalley also on 44, tied for 10th. And then we've got Harry, Rudy, Denzo, Asacum top 15, Robbie, Axe, Kazisl, Yaron, and Pedro ran off the top 20, and of course Rudy, only a second start last week, but he did take the win, of course, in Singapore as a result of what was pretty diabolical driving standards from our perspective, certainly. We threatened certainly to quit. That's why we're back again this week. You can't get rid of us, unfortunately. But Rowan leading the way, Nemaya in second. Jensen Steph, though, Aiden, had a very good week last week in terms of the championship.
Yeah, they really did. Like you said, the top two haven't really attended the last few races. I mean, in the case of Rowan, he's attended less than half the races and is still the championship leader at this point. But yeah, Jensen finally kind of got out of his bad streak of poor performances. He didn't have a smooth time of it in Singapore. It wasn't the smoothest of races. He kind of flew a little bit under the radar in terms of his overall pace, but he still got a solid result out of it. And he's back within a race win in terms of championship points to the lead of the title. Same for Steph as well, who's been on a continued run of good performances. Still didn't get... It's kind of similar to Jensen, really. Wasn't really that much of a feature in terms of performance, but had a relatively clean run all the way through, kept out of trouble, and has now made it his 6th top 5 finish in 6 starts. So Steph, when he's attended, Steph has been incredibly consistent. So he's now right in the thick of the battle as well. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what they can do going forwards into these final, I think, 4 rounds of the season that we've got coming up, obviously including this one. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do, whether they can continue to gain momentum and close in. But I have noticed that Rowan is here tonight. So Rowan now has the opportunity to either re-extend that championship lead and get further out in front, or potentially have a poor performance and run a risk of losing the title that he's held the lead of for so long this season.
Yeah, well, all the performances that Rowan has actually done this season, he's had 4 wins, and then the other one he finished 5th in, plus the sprint race, which I think he won or certainly placed highly in as well. So Rowan, every single race he's attended has either won or certainly been in the top 5 of every single performance. Same with Steph as well. You mentioned there the stat about Steph. He has finished top 5 in every single performance that he has brought to WOR. And hopefully we're going to be seeing more of the same, because Steph is not here at this stage. Rowan is, though. Jensen is. So it looks like it could be between potentially those two. We have got 16 drivers currently in the lobby, I can report. And we will be going, of course, trackside very soon indeed here in Japan. And speaking of Japan, let's have a look then at the track map in question. 5.8 kilometers in length, 3.6 mile, 18 turns around the Suzuka International Circuit, with of course 1 DRS zone, 1 down the start finish straight, and then no more DRS zones, but plenty of opportunities for overtaking, of course, out on track tonight. The only figure of 8 circuit ever to be made in Formula 1 as well. And this is a track that honestly is a bit like Marmite. I certainly love it as a commentator. As a driver, maybe not so much.
I think I hold the opposite to you. I think to commentate sometimes it can be a little bit difficult because the racing can get a little bit stagnant around this circuit, with there only being 1 DRS zone and not many overtaking opportunities. But to drive, personally, I adore driving this track. It is such a driver circuit. It really demands all the best features from a driver. You've got those really, really high speed S's that are in such quick succession. You need to be properly in control of your car, well, right on the edge, trying to gain as much performance as you can. You've got the slow speed stuff with the hairpin and corners like Spoon, and then the Casio Triangle at the end of the lap as well. It really demands the best from some of these drivers, which is why I absolutely adore driving it. And unfortunately, it sounds like this isn't going to be the only figure of eight track soon in the Formula One calendar. If the Saudi Arabia rumours are to be believed, then we will be moving to a new Saudi Arabian track in, I think, about 5 or 6 years' time, and that will have a figure of eight circuit, which will definitely not be anywhere near as good as this one is in terms of driving. So, yeah, it's like I said, it's a properly unique challenge is Suzuka, and I hope it remains as the only track similar to this in this style, because it is such a special calendar. And of course, as well, in real life, the Japanese fans are something to behold as well. They are so passionate about Formula One, so it's properly deserving of being one of the best tracks in Formula One, I would say.
Yeah, definitely so. And obviously, those rumours I've actually not heard of about Saudi Arabia in 5 or 6 years. So hopefully, the Saudis actually see a little bit of sense. Hopefully, they don't produce the second figure of eight circuit in Formula One, because it will ruin the racing. But then again, I see it from a different way. You can have that track rather than the fish that we have in Saudi Arabia at this moment in time with the Jeddah circuit, that is for sure. But we are now getting out on track. We're just waiting on your own to load into the lobby. As I say, 16 drivers currently here. Might be 1 or 2 joining late in qualifying. I think all of the ones that did say that they were going to be a little bit late are here, so that is good. And what else is good is going to be beautiful blue skies and sunshine, which means everyone is going to be on potentially a set of soft compound tyre. But of course, the brand new rule that was brought in the game as part of the sports livery update that happened a little bit earlier on in the week is, Aiden, they can use medium tyres now in qualifying.
Yeah, and they can use hard, I believe, as well. You do have the harder option as well, so someone might choose a hard compound tyre. I mean, that would be utterly bizarre if they did, but it is now possible, like you say, with this new update that we've seen. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what drivers do strategy-wise as well. I think this is one of the tracks where tyre wear is not really a problem, so we're not going to see any of these people doing alternate strategies or anything like that. And to be fair, with how this game has run, while it is nice now to have the opportunity to use medium compound tyres in qualifying, I don't think we're really going to see any strategy changes across the board on some of these tracks, because everything pretty much on this game is a one-stop around in a 50% race at least. I mean, including tracks like Canada, where traditionally it's been a 2-stop in previous games. It's now pretty much a 1-stop. I think the only track where you would probably see people using that second set of medium tyres is Mexico. I would say that's probably one of the only tracks you would see that. But if there's any 100% league races out there, then they'll benefit massively from this update, which is nice to see. And again, of course, what is nice to see is these brand new updated cars, which is brilliant. It's been a long time coming. I'm so happy they're here, and it is just so nice going on board this Aston Martin and seeing a black halo and carbon fiber on the side pods, and the correct side pods as well. We're not the ones they used in testing. It's refreshing. It's really refreshing to see these new car models, and it just makes it feel a little bit more real now.
Yeah, I think it makes the game rather complete, even though there's about thousands of bugs in this game and absolute tremendous amounts of lag that we are going to be getting, of course, potentially out on track tonight. In course, the esports that is currently happening, these are the updated car models. They're not running the updated car models in esports, probably because it's pre-recorded. This is live and exclusive, of course, to the WOR channel. And Jensen is now coming to the Casio Triangle on the run towards the line through the left-hander turn 17. They've got rid of the bump now on the turn right-hander turn 18. And now down the straight in towards turn 1. Around 200 mile an hour sometimes you can get in towards turn number 1, and Jensen's going to manage that quite easily in towards the right-hander of turn number 1, and then through the right-hander of turn number 2, and then in towards the S-curve, or the S-section, as I like to call it, the slithering snake section is what I also like to call it, through 3 and 4, through the left-hander of turn number 5, and then through the right-hander of turn number 6, and then in towards Dunlop curve at turn number 7, pretty much marking the entirety of the first sector. Can we do Dunlop curve? And now in towards one of the, I think, the trickiest points on the track, it is the Deglers, 32.3 in the first sector from Jensen. Take the 1 complete, and then to the right-hander take the 2. Jensen making it look very easy indeed. I would have been invalidated certainly through there as Jensen now comes up towards the hairpin at pretty much the highest point on the track. They go downhill now from here through 200R, which is this right-hander, and then down in towards Spoon Curve, which of course is going to be the double left at turns 13 and 14 as Jensen now comes down in towards turns 13 and 14. Looking quite good on this lap. Of course, other drivers on the lap as well. Harry, I believe, had a qualifying ban, if I'm not mistaken, so that's why he might have been retired in the pit lane a little bit early on as Jensen now comes up the hill in toward 130R, the most fearsome and fastest corner on this race circuit. It's a 112.3 in the middle sector from Jensen through 130R, and now once again on the pretty much role reversal into the Casio Triangle. Pretty much a lap complete then on board with Jensen through 16 and 17, through 80, and looking like a very assured lap, I've got to say, from the championship protagonist on the run toward the line. 28.9 is not a bad lap time to start off with.
Yeah, it's definitely not, but Roman's just going to go 0.4 of a second faster with his lap, and that all of that time as Tom actually goes nearly 0.2 faster than that, so a great lap on the board there from Tom in the house. I was on board with Rowan for his entirety of his lap. Jensen and Rowan were pretty much dead level matched in the first and third sectors. All of Rowan's time was found in the middle part of the lap, so I didn't see if Jensen made a little bit of an error somewhere in that middle sector, but there is definitely more time to find for the Ferrari driver. Surface across the line to go P4, just pipped at the line there by the other Haas of a Rocker who goes into P4. So just looking down the field to see who is next to finish a lap at the moment. I think Pedro Silva, one of the later ones to come to the end of a run. Kryptonite's just crossed the line. I think Jake Marsh is about to cross the line as well, but Jake Marsh has invalidated. Pedro Silva to the line, goes P3 just ahead of his Ferrari teammates. So Pedro Silva again starting off well in this qualifying session, as he has done in his previous two starts. He's been very strong in qualifying, but it's just never translated to the race, just through bad luck pretty much. So it would be nice to see him hopefully have a bit more luck in race conditions today, but in qualifying at least he's considering where he's left off the last few times. Yeah,
definitely. So Pedro has been quite strong, I've got to say, in qualifying, and already proving that the Ferraris are up there third and fourth position. And Pedro was out-qualified Jensen, last year's champion. I'd be really buoyed by that performance so far from Pedro. Smalley was on a lap, he's actually invalidated. I think he's coming back into the pit lane in the McLaren. Jake Marsh is now on a lap coming into the hairpin, 32.8. It is a respectful first sector of the Mercedes man. I don't think he's had much practice coming into tonight, so that's why we're going to be seeing him now on a lap of Lime Violet as well. Also on a lap, he's coming down in towards the hairpin. Apologies if it's a little bit laggy, by the way. Certainly is on my end. I'm not sure if it's going to be affecting the picture quality on the stream. And normally doesn't, but it is a little bit laggy on my end. I apologise. It is because of the new update that I've done to the laptop. But Tom leads the way, Rowan in second, Pedro Silva in third, Jensen in fourth, and a Rocker there in fifth. Jake Marsh still carrying on in toward 130R. That's a 114 flat. Not a good middle sector at all from Jake Marsh. In fact, it's actually backed off and out of fuel coming out at 130R.
Yeah, well, you run very low to the limit, don't you, to try and get the best one around this track. This is one of those tracks where he needs to be on the lighter fuel because of the quick direction changes. And yeah, he's obviously not had enough time to slow down on the previous lap and then come and try and save a little bit of fuel. So dive back into the pit lane. Not a bit of a surprise there. Just caught Line Violet completely missing the final chicane. He just missed the first part and then skipped the second part. And there's a Ferrari off the road with him as well on Pedro Silva, who's also missed the chicane. So quite a few people missing the chicane there, as I think pretty much everybody is back in the pit lane. It's only Dan Spreen and Kaya, I believe, that are on laps. Kaya's going to cross the line 29.5, so not really a competitive time so far. Puts him only just ahead of Jeroen, who's the only other time that's not properly competitive at the moment. Puts him P10. Dan Spreen's on an out lap, so he's the only one. We just get to appreciate the new Le Aston Martin in this game, which you've got to admit looks a lot better than it did about 2 weeks ago.
It does, honestly, it does, and I think it really makes a difference. I think graphically as well, this game has improved considerably with the sports delivery update. Sadly, other glitches still remain, unfortunately, like the pit lane glitch at Singapore. Dan Spreen, though, on an out lap, that Aston Martin looked very, very finished indeed. It looked very polished. And now the Dutchman, is going to be coming in towards the Casio Triangle to try and get onto a lap. It's Tom out on top, Rowan in second, Pedro Silva in third. If you are just tuned into the stream, by the way, welcome along. Myself and Nathan Carter taking to the action as Dan Spreen now set up on this lap on the run down in towards turn 1. Rowan is the only other man as well that is on an out lap at this stage. Line Violet has run out of fuel, coming in towards Spoon Curve. Dan Spreen now hits turns 1 and 2, and looking already very shaky, I've got to say, through turns 1 and 2. This is through the centre S now, turns 3, then through the right-hand turn number 4, catches the grass, through turn 5, through turn 6, and honestly, if he doesn't spin on this lap, I might be inclined to give him a 5 at this stage.
Yeah, it's looked messy, hasn't it, so far? Dan Spreen's obviously not got the pace of some of these drivers around in this field, and as you can tell, first sector of 33.1 is way off the pace, and oof, yeah, clobbers the curb on the inside of the first Degner and invalidates on the outside. Keeps it out of the wall and out of the gravel, which is good, but yeah, just took a little bit too much curb there on the inside and unsettled the car. And of course, with these new cars with the lower run, with the lower ride height, you really run with these cars now as well. And of course, because of the floor updates that we've got with the leading edge on them, they are a lot more sensitive to curbs. That Degner curb on the previous game wasn't really a factor on the older cars because of the rake you could run and the tyres, of course, and the different floors. But this time around, you can't really do the same. And I think Dan Spreen learned that the hard way by just bouncing over the top of that curb on the inside of the first Degner. So just see who else is on lap. Rowan's just started a lap in the Red Bull, so it'll be just interesting to see whether Rowan can find any more time on this lap, whether he can get up closer to Tom, because Rowan's been strong in qualifying all season. Of course, he's won multiple races as well. He's been so strong in the races, but to see Tom put nearly 2 tenths on Rowan is definitely very interesting. We'll see what Rowan can do, but Rowan's found pretty much all of that time in the first sector.
Yeah, not looking too bad at all through the first sector. A little bit shaky coming out of Degner 2. Obviously, you can capitalise on that now, coming up the hill and towards the hairpin at turn number 9. And then through 200R, of course, on the run down towards the spoon curve at turn number 13 at this stage. Smalley as well saying in the Discord he's not too pleased at all by this track. I'm just going to put it that way. I'm not going to repeat what he said because it does contain a few swearers. And we do not want to be saying that live on stream. As now Rowan comes through the left-hander of spoon curve, looking very assured, I'm going to say, on his lap. He was a 10th up in the first sector. We'll see what this comparison is in the middle sector. I have a feeling he's going to be around Tom's middle sector. It's a 111.8 in the middle sector combined. Now on through 130R in toward the Casio triangle. This is looking very assured indeed from Rowan as he now comes through the right-hander, then through the left of the Casio triangle on the run toward the line. As Rowan on the run, I think is going to go quickest here to the line. He does 28.3, 2 tenths of a second. Only 500s ahead of Tom though.
Yeah, lost a little bit of time in that final Casio triangle. It looked relatively clean, so maybe just didn't carry enough speed, but it's still not as fast a final sector as he did on his previous run. So there is a little bit more time in it, but now we've got to see whether Tom can respond and find a bit more time. And if he can, that would be very interesting to see what Tom can do if he can find that a little bit more. I'm just running with Kryptonite in the Mercedes at the moment to see what they can do on their lap. Currently P7 on a 29 flat, has recently improved their qualifying pace and is now 2.5 tenths up in the middle sector. So that should, at the moment, if he can complete this lap, could put him ahead of Pedro Silva and up into third place. There is a chasm between the top two and the rest of the field at the moment of nearly half a second. So we'll see whether Kryptonite can fit into that gap. It was a little bit wobbly through the Casio triangle, crosses the line. He does go third, but I suspect there's even more time in that lap as well from Kryptonite, as Jensen had slightly improved by 4 thousandths in the first sector, but has clearly made a mistake in one of the Degners and has backed off.
Yeah, I think it was Degner 2 possibly on the exit. I thought he was going to be invalidated, didn't though. And Jensen there down in 5th position. His teammate Pedro is coming to the first sector, 32.2 in the first sector, so thereabouts with Krypton. We'll see what the Ferrari man can do now on a lap. Ferrari Mercedes, who would have thought of potentially passing to 3rd position here in qualifying. Not too common that you see that in Formula 1, or do you? Rowan out on top, Tom in 2nd, Krypton in 3rd, Pedro Silva in 4th. The surface now fits into the gap between Krypton and Pedro. He goes into he goes, I should say, into 4th. Don't know why I was sounding a little bit southern there. Because now Pedro Silva comes in toward the left-hander of the spoon curve. Rowan, Tom, Krypton curving the top 3. Pedro Silva looking very strong, I've got to say, on this lap. The GTZ man now coming through the middle second. The Portuguese man, of course, who debuted a couple of weeks ago in WOR. He's 2 tenths up, 2.5 tenths up in the middle sector. Quicker than Krypton, I think, in the middle sector as well. Running low on fuel, and this is looking like a very assured lap. And if this is not a 28.5, I don't know what it's going to be. Is Pedro Silva on the run toward the line? 28.5, please, Pedro. Thank you very much.
Yeah, lovely. Brilliant stuff. And he goes slap bang in the middle, pretty much, of that gap between Tom and Kryptonite into P3. So he's kind of in a world of his own at the moment. Is Pedro Silva not quite as fast as the top two, but got a bit of a comfortable gap on the rest of the field behind him. We're just seeing if Arocca's actually just started a lap in the Haas, so we'll see what Arocca can do. Currently P8 at the moment. I was aboard with Aquila as well. Aquila only improved by 4 thousandths of a second, but he was nearly 2 tenths down in the middle part of the lap, so there's more time on the board for the AlphaTauri drivers. I think we've got a yellow flag somewhere. I didn't see what that was for. Ooh.
Jensen off in the gravel through Dunlop curve. That's what that was for, and Jensen, I think, has got 2 Larry coming out of turn number 6, probably caught on the outside curve at turn number 7. Car's rotated round, he's in the gravel, and just when we're bigging him up at the start of the stream, he had his best performance for quite a while, actually, Jensen, in recent weeks. Unfortunately, in the gravel, still down in 7th position, so still got a lot of time to find.
Yeah, and of course Rowan as well, championship leader, hasn't been here for most of the season and is now brought straight back up and into the top spot at the moment in qualifying with none of the championship rivals around him. So yeah, it's definitely looking good again for Rowan, especially considering the fact that his only title rival that's here tonight is Jensen. So Jensen's really the only one that can lay a marker down against Rowan. It's Rocker I've just caught in the Haas. Big snap of oversteer midway through the second part of Spoon. Has managed to keep it out of the wall, but yeah, that was a horrible snap of oversteer midway through the corner, and well held to keep that out of the tyre barriers, but yeah, that would have been remarkable if he would have saved that. So yeah, unfortunately he didn't, and that's his lap time over and done with in that house. So he'll be back into the pit lane and just seeing who else is on a lap. I think Kaya is just coming to the end of a run in the Alpine, but that Ferrari in front of him not doing him a world of favours there in that final chicane as Kaya crosses the line, finds 0.4 of a second, goes into P11. So not a bad lap there from Kaya, but again, the field is a little bit separated at the moment. There's not really this close qualifying gap that we've seen any time this season. It is very, very spread out at the moment. By the way, I was on board with Tom when he was on that previous lap. He was slightly down in the first sector. It wasn't a bad first sector by any means, but he then made a mistake through the second egg there and had to back off. His proved on his first run.
Yeah, that's a shame from him. Kai there down in 11th position. Not sure what's going on with my maybe my CPU has gone a little bit too high for my liking. Rowan out on top, Tom in second, Pedro Silva in third. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay still. And hopefully the stream is all fine as well. There we go, it's now fixed itself. Krypton on the back, currently on an outlap at this stage. Mercedes there, 28.7. He has got 2 tenths to find obviously on Pedro, 4 tenths to find on the leaders of Rowan and Tom. But he can produce good qualifying performances in this session. What can Krypton do with the 28.7? It is going to be a big task, though, because that is a big lap that he's already set. So potential for not really an improvement, especially this late on in the session.
Yeah, I think for Krypton, when we were on board with that previous lap, there was a little bit of time in the final sector, but the final sector is by far the shortest sector on this track. So yeah, it's hard to know what else we can really expect from Kryptonite in the session, especially with the big gaps that we've got in front of him in the top three. Of course, he's over 2 tenths behind the next car, so it'd have to be a mega improvement on this final run from Kryptonite to even gain a place. So I think in whether he's just going to try and improve and solidify that 4th place on the grid. 4th place on the grid is no bad thing by any stretch of the imagination around Japan. It's still a very good position, and Kryptonite is known for being better in the races than he is in qualifying. So being P4 is definitely a win for the Mercedes driver. So we'll see what he could do on his lap. But yeah, I highly doubt, unless he sets a mega lap, he's going to improve on 4th place.
We'll have to see if Kryptonite can turn into Marmite, potentially, in terms of this lap. As Lamparlas has left the session. That was a bad pun, I know. Rowan out on top, Tom in second, Pedro in third. Krypton now preparing up for the lap. We'll go on board with him and then see what he can do. Oh, as we've got a migrating host. Not sure what's going on. Akila has left the session. Have I left the session by any chance? Don't know what's going on
No, it
here.
seems everybody's left this. Yeah, I think everybody's left the session because everybody's leaving on my end as well. So I don't know if we've got some sort of lobby problem.
Well, Jensen's AI, or Jensen, is out on track at this stage. Pedro Silva's been disqualified for being parked at a dangerous location. Same with Smalley, whose AI has just left the scene as well. I wonder if we're having the same problem as SRC potentially did on... It wasn't Tuesday gone, it was Tuesday before, where the server just absolutely crashed. So while we are going to try and fix that and see what is going on in the Discord, let me take you then to an advertisement break. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Now we're back live for WOR Season 13. Apologies about that. It seems like everyone has had a huge lobby glitch, which has unfortunately cost us in terms of the action. We don't know what's going on out on track at this moment in time. But I'm looking at the chat and they're saying if we restart the short qualifying, people saying basically they're deciding what to do at this stage, I think, by the looks. And Tom saying everyone got separated into different sessions. Yep, we got kicked out completely. Both of us got kicked out completely. And somebody's saying, can we do a 100% race? I don't think we've got the time, to be honest, for a 100% race. Smalley as well saying, yeah, I'm not going to read what Smalley's just said, because I think that's a bit of a ridiculous comment. Harry definitely venting frustration out there, but I'm going to vent my frustration out on the game. And we had a rant last week. You think what is going to be happening now? This is exactly the same problem as the Shizou Racing Championship. 2 weeks ago, me and Evan did SRC on a Tuesday. Same thing happened. We're about 13 laps into the race. Then the lobby just crashed completely, and in the end, points had to be taken. This is in qualifying, so this is a completely different scenario. It looks as if Dan is going to use the qualifying results before the lobby bug, though. So we are going to get back going very soon indeed, potentially. We have got the lobby results, I believe, from the stream up until the point where everyone left. Maybe taken, I would say, a minute before everything just kicked off. But yeah, really strange indeed. Obviously, not what we expected. Aiden, by the way, is... I haven't put his camera on because it's just causing too much issues on my CPU. So, apologies that he is on the black screen. Might be the best, but might be the worst for some people. Might be the best for others. But there we are. But obviously, we are going to be back live very soon. Hopefully out on track within the next 5 or 10 minutes. Please stick with us at this stage. And Jerry's saying that there's going to be a lobby restart as well. So yeah, there's going to be a new lobby restart. And unfortunately, for the 4 people I think that we had tuning in, you're just going to have to stick with us for the next 10 minutes and wonder what is going on at this stage. But there we are. We, obviously, this is out of our control. This is out of your control as well as viewers. Literally, what has happened within the game. Not good news, obviously. And it's the second time for me, certainly in 2 weeks, that this has happened. And this just comes to show and highlight, I think, the importance of getting a much more stable game, even with the sports delivery update, getting a much more functioning game going to really produce the action that we deserve and that we need. Because this has happened, what, twice for me in 2 weeks now. And to be honest, it's getting beyond a joke.
Yeah, it really is. It's frustrating because we've just talked about how this game, obviously the game update with the cars and things, has made the cars look nice, and they've kind of sorted out that side of things, and they've made progress with that, and it's nice to see that they've given us that option. But there's no point in updating the game in this side of things if we can't play the game, and it's frustrating because this has been a common occurrence with many F1 game in the past. This isn't just solely an F1 2022 problem that's just arisen. We've had this issue with previous games before, and they've managed to resolve it over a game cycle, and then somehow these issues pop back up again in the next game. So it's almost like they forget to code in the issues that they've resolved in the previous game, and then go back to like a base code for the next game and forget all of these patches that they've put in, which is frustrating because we're going through the same process with this game and its update cycle pretty much every year. We know what the updates are going to be pretty much every time we come into these game cycles, because we know what the problems are going to be. We can predict the problems from a mile off. And the other issue I think that's frustrating for a lot of people as well is we know that this is an issue they can fix, because first of all, Codemasters and EA are incredibly wealthy companies, and they've got many a budget and many a team to be able to sort this. It's not as if that they are an indie developer that don't have the time or the resources to do this. They easily have the time or the resources to do this. They're one of the biggest gaming platforms, gaming developers in the world. I mean, Codemasters was bought by it for over $1 billion. So they've got the money and the resource and the team to be able to solve this. And they can build a whole new version of the game for the esports side of things, and that have no bugs or problems. I get that the server sizes for the esports side of the game are a lot smaller, so there's a lot less demand, and that can make it a bit easier. But they're still not going to have the fundamental issues that we're having on our side, and they're not having those issues. And we know that they can code it in. It just seems like a case of almost at this point laziness from Codemasters, which is such a shame because they do have such potential with a product for an F1 game. They're just not putting the time into to be able to resolve these issues. And I get that the main core player base of this game as well is on career mode, and it's the casual player. But a lot of the marketing for this game revolves around the league side of things. I mean, why do you think we have the esports event on this game? It's more than anything, it's a marketing exercise for Formula One and for this game. So to be able to use our platform and our community as a marketing, but then not actually support our community when it comes to the game build is incredibly frustrating. And it's just a repeated cycle that we're seeing pretty much every year at this point.
Yeah, and I'm just going to put it a little bit more bluntly. I find it a little bit two-faced that a company of this stature can actually turn around and say, we don't have any money to put into this game for development. I mean, they brought out the sports delivery update, which was probably the biggest update I think this game has had since actual launch, and we're still 5 or 6 months into the game cycle, and no wonder people are actually giving up on league racing. I've seen it in other leagues, in much smaller leagues as well. People are actually sick of this game, and they're transitioning over to other games like Gran Turismo Sport, Gran Turismo 7, ACC, for goodness sake, as well can handle a better profile than this. I mean, even WRC Generations, who somebody got luckily a free code off the off the producers of that game, WRC, which it's a Codemasters game, I think, as well, if I'm not mistaken.
It's going to be next year, so it's actually a Kyloton game at the moment, and this is the last game in the Kyloton series, unfortunately, is the WRC Generations, before it moves over to EA and Codemasters next year. So I think for WRC fans at the moment, this definitely is a period of worry for the WRC games, because if they're anything like the Formula 1 games, then the WRC player base is going to dwindle in size as well if we keep having these sort of issues. But I mean, I said it last week when we were having the issues with some of the problems with the lobby in Singapore, is that Codemasters can make a good game because the Dirt Rally games, of course, are made by Codemasters. They're made by a different internal team, of course, but they're still made by Codemasters. And those games come out with virtually no problems. They don't come with any game-breaking bugs. They just come with the typical maybe visual or something bug that they can resolve fairly quickly and doesn't really have that much effect on the player base. Or if it does happen, it's very rare and it doesn't, and you can't predict it happening. It's just a very random occurrence on a one-off occasion. So they have the ability to be able to make a game that can function properly. I think they're almost at this point just using the yearly release as an excuse to get out of the fact that they're making these games quite poorly. They're just kind of rushing them and not really taking their time with them. I get that the year release is a thing that they have to stick to, but with a team that size, it shouldn't be difficult. And if they're struggling with doing it and they're going to blame it on a yearly release cycle, then really they shouldn't have the license to the F1 titles, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look at F1 Manager, for goodness sake. F1 Manager, probably with half or three-quarters the size of Codemasters' development team, has produced probably a much more stable, a much more fairer, and a much more cleaner finish of the game as well. And I honestly wouldn't have minded about F1 22 if they delayed it for a year. I'd rather have a fully complete game at launch rather than the absolute rubbish that we have got at this moment in time. And it's all too frustrating, I think. Every single league has had some sort of problem. If you haven't, then you're one of the lucky ones. But every single league, every single driver, I am sure, has been involved in some problem on this game. And it's not the first time. This has honestly been happening, from my experience, certainly, since F1 2015, the first ever game iteration they brought on what was then the new gen console, and that was, of course, the PS4. And the problems have arisen basically from, I would say, mismanagement from Codemasters' part, misfinancing as well. A lot more money could have been put into the game to make it obviously as on par as what we've got with F1 Manager. F1 Manager has obviously got F2 and F3 drivers in there. We don't in this game. We would have loved. It's one of my most common features that I want in an F1 22 game or in an F1 Game Series game. I would want F2 and F3 drivers to come in, and you can even race them online. And obviously, it is so frustrating, I think, that it's been mismanaged, underperformed, quite literally, in terms of what we've had on the F1 Game Series. And people I know have quit the F1 Game Series as a result of Codemasters' mismanagement and as a result of these game glitching bugs that we've got, which is frustrating not only for us, because we are taking time out of our lives to bring you the action, or try and bring you some resemblance of the action, and then obviously we have a lobby glitch that just causes absolute chaos. And even now, we've got more drivers than what we started off with because it's been delayed half an hour, which I don't really get. But we've got 19 drivers at least. I can update you. Everyone's now in the lobby. We're just waiting on the lobby settings to be updated, and then we can get going. But I honestly think we should build a podcast series or something. Aiden James podcast just ranting about the game, have an hour a week, get on Spotify, and get us some really big money, I think, potentially, in terms of us complaining every single week. If you want to pay for that, let us know in the comment section. We'll try and get something sorted out with WOR in the final couple of weeks of the season. But anyways, back to what we are here for, and that is the racing. We have got 19 drivers in the lobby. We are a couple of minutes away from beginning, I believe. And that means we are going to get a 27-lap race. No qualifying, no one-shot qualifying. It's decided, of course, by the result. Everyone who's joined late is going to be, of course, joining at the back of the field. So they're going to be racing in 17th, 18th, and 19th. And I can tell you, those drivers, I believe, are Raphael, Rudy, and there is another one I have spied somewhere. Who is it? Just trying to look through. Do we have 17 or 16 in the lobby? Oh, it's Jerry.
I believe we had
Jerry's
16.
the other one.
Yeah, Jerry's here. Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I think adding Jerry Rudy into the mix probably better for the racing out on track rather than being worse, because Rudy, of course, won the race last week.
Yeah, he won the race, of course, last week, like you mentioned, and unfortunately, we just had someone leave. I know we had Smalley in the wrong car, so he's just changing car. But yeah, we had like you said, we had Rudy winning last week, and we've had Jerry winning once this season as well in Canada. So they've both run races this season. They've both been very strong, and they've got good pace, and they've got good racecraft as well. So there's definitely opportunity for them to win as well. So coming from the back, it's obviously going to be difficult around a track like Japan. It's going to be difficult to overtake, but it's still an opportunity for us to get an exciting storyline for this race of seeing these drivers that didn't take part in the first qualifying just being able to try and climb their way through the field. So that's something that's definitely going to be interesting as well. And of course, what is going to be interesting is seeing if Rowan can jump straight in after 2 weeks away and win again and extend his championship lead. And if he can, I mean, Rowan at this point is on course to win the championship, having only taken part in half the races.
Yeah, and that would be really good, I think, from Rowan's perspective. Maybe a little bit of a fluky championship victory, dare I say it, even though he hasn't attended half the races that he should have been doing. But it's understandable, obviously, with work commitments. I think that was his main reason around that. We are now getting going. I can bring you the track action once again. And we are about to get going, as I say, for this 27-lap race. Hopefully, everyone has had enough of a break, potentially, to get some really good action, of course, out on track. And we do not want Prost, Senna, 1990, I think it was, down in towards turn 1. We do not want that here tonight. We want really clean racing. Anything will be better than Singapore last week. And anything, I think, should be better than Singapore last week. And we are a couple of moments away from getting going.
Yeah, fingers crossed it is. I really hope it is. Hopefully we haven't done our famous commentator's curse and it's going to be a hellscape of a race. But I don't think it will be. I think Japan lends itself to better racing, I would say. Smarter racing, let's say. I think Singapore is one of those tracks where track position is so key that people are really, really desperate to make overtakes. Obviously, not making excuses for poor driving standards in Singapore. It shouldn't be an excuse to be driving poorly at Singapore is because of track position, but that's just the reality of the situation, is that some people want that track position and will do anything to get the moves done. And we saw a lot of that last time out in Singapore. So hopefully this track lends itself to better racing and not as much push and shove. But we'll wait and see. Who knows? I mean, it could be the complete opposite. We'll wait and see.
We will wait and see. All of our questions, even our questions, are going to be answered probably in the next 30 seconds or so. We are just waiting on the final drivers to ready up in the lobby, and then we'll be good to go with the 30-second countdown. And then, of course, good to go for the race. Predictions, Aiden. Who are you going for the win?
I think Rowan, pole position. All of the people you would expect for him to be as fast as him are at the back of the field, having not taken part in qualifying. So I think this is an open goal for Rowan to win this race.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree. I think Rowan certainly is going to be up there. I'm going to go Jensen for second. I think Jensen has got a little bit more pace than actually needed. And for third, I'm just going to go completely rogue, and I'm going to go Jerry for third. Normally, he's on the podium, so hopefully he's going to be producing the performance like he did last week in Singapore. 5 red lights now coming on here in Japan. Round number 12 of the championship about to begin. And it is... lights on the way we go, and Tom gets a draw in the lead of the race, but Rowan there in second, Pedro there in third. Crippen tries to go on the inside line into fourth. There's a huge carnage in the background. Kai and Raphael have been caught up in this. I think Jeroen was caught up in that as well. But Tom leads the way with that drive-through penalty through the first sector, through the center S's for the first time. Rowan there in second, Pedro Silva in third. Crippen already headed Jensen into fourth. Good start from him. Surface there is into sixth. Daniel, who's just nearly spun, coming out of turn number 6 there into the Dunlop curve of turn 7, holds on to that place, formerly of SXT, now part of the VIR. Harry is the only one on a set of medium compound tyres, making good progress in the field. He's already up into 11, and already good pressure from Jerry, who gets the move done down screen and actually forces him off track there slightly through Technical 2. And now he's side by side with the line. Varlek coming up the hill and towards the hairpin. Tries to get the job done. I think Jerry will hold the inside line and try and get the job done. There's more action further up the field. His teammate Akila is going side by side with Smalley, and now they come through 200R, and Smalley actually switches to the outside line. Brilliant stuff by Smalley. Switches to the outside line from inside to out. He was more like a horse rather than a Formula 1 car there. Akila now bashes him off track, slightly coming through spoon curve. Smalley now 3 wide down and towards 130 on this contact. Harry tries to go for the gap, not there. Everyone continues on. More contact though. Tom leads the way. Rowan in second. Pedro Silva in third. And now he's under pressure from Krypton into the Casio triangle.
Yeah, under pressure, like I say, Kryptonite trying to get the move done down the inside. Pedro's going to hold it for the straight, and there's no DRS yet, so I think Pedro should hold on to that one. Tom in to serve that drive-through penalty, and that has just made this race even easier for Owen. His only one that was close to him in qualifying is pretty much out of the running. As look at Kryptonite's straight line speed. Wow, he flew past, and Pedro Silva's dropped behind his teammate Jensen as well. So Jensen up into third, Kryptonite up into second. I don't know whether that's Kryptonite and Jensen being fast in a straight line or Pedro Silva just being incredibly slow in a straight line, but he got mugged. That looked like a DRS pass, but of course there's no DRS yet. That was very bizarre. As Jerry has retired on track, that is that a crash just before the S section? I think it is, yeah, and that is a virtual safety car by the looks of things. It's very easy to do if you take too much exit curve out of the second corner. You can crash there, and he has done that, unfortunately, which is a shame to see. So yeah, he is out of the running, which that is a real shame, unfortunately, for Jerry, who is then out of this race. So one of those drivers that were fast at the back of the field is not in this race any longer. But one person who did start at the back of the field, who has made incredible progress, is Rudy. He's already up into 8th place.
Yeah, he is indeed. 10 positions gained for Rudy, 7 gained for Harry, 9 gained for Raphael. So it's the mid-pack battle for basically 8th, 9th and 10th, who've gained the most positions out of the race start. Jensen gaining 4th the start. He was absolutely flew off the line. Jensen already ahead of quite a few cars coming through turn 2 and turn 3. Rowan, though, leading the way. Krypton in second, Jensen third. We are under the full VSC. Currently out on track. We're about to get racing, I think. Out on track. Most positions lost, though. Tom, as a result of that drive-through penalty, literally, minimally, when the fire red lights went out, just went over his pit box, over his racing start box, and then obviously that drive-through penalty. As a result, he's down at the back of the field. VSC actually does help him because it does save him a bit of time later on in the race. Rowan, though, is surely going to get this back underway. He is not going to have a 3-second lead off this restart, is he? Krypton in second, Jensen there in third. Surface right on the back of Pedro Silva. He's going to look for the move in toward turn number 1. And there we go, green once again with DRS now enabled. Surface on the back of Pedro. Tries to get him done towards turn number 1. Doesn't quite get the job done. And Daniel ran in the background as well there in second position in the Aston Martin. Jensen all over the back of Krypton. Didn't really get a good start. It's now 2 seconds the gap between Rowan and Krypton. Jensen there in third. The former champion now, or the current champion I should say, hounding the back of Krypton, who's been very consistent races. And they're actually gapping Pedro Silva, Surface and Daniel just out for a second.
Yeah, they are. I don't know what's going on with Pedro Silva here because his qualifying pace was pretty strong. He was solid in third place, comfortably ahead of the likes of Jensen and Kryptonite, and just a little bit behind. And he's dropped the car. He's dropped the car coming out of the second deck and has hit the wall. And that's another great qualifying performance for Pedro Silva down the drain. I don't know what is going on with Pedro Silva in these races. It's all Jake Marsh. That was a dive and a half from Jake Marsh, and he's put Dan Spreen almost in the gravel on the outside of the hairpin. That was ambitious, to say the least, and I don't think Dan Spreen will be too happy about that move from Jake Marsh. But yeah, I don't know what it is for Pedro Silva. Whatever he's doing in qualifying just is not translating into the race conditions. Sometimes it's bad luck, but through there, that's just purely his own mistake, and that is a real shame. And he's now down to the back of the field, and he like Tom and like people like your own as well, who had a bad start, will be hoping for some sort of safety car, as I think Jake Marsh just spun and reset to track coming out of Spoon.
Yep, he did indeed. Jake Marsh down in 16th position. Not the greatest start from him at all. Jensen, though, on the back of Krypton. This is looking very easy indeed for the Ferrari. On board with the Halo Cam. Unfortunately, down in towards turn 1. We're on board with him now. Jensen pulls out the slipstream, and he looks absolutely brilliant down the straight. Through and he's into second. Gets the job done. Line Barlett is the tide. Thing out on track. Rudy run on the back of a rocker. Pedro Silva's been caught up in that as well, and that is a full safety car this time. So full safety car. Rudy is on the back of a rocker there in 7th. With Rowan leads the way. Jensen second. Krypton now in 3rd. Full safety car deployed. Line Barlett, I think, made a mistake by himself, did he? And obviously Pedro, I think, has gone into the back of him, if I'm not mistaken.
I think by the looks of it, I think what happened was Line Violet's done what looks like to be a very reminiscent of a Timo Glock crash in the final corner, where he's just gone wide, hit the grass, and then obviously once you're on the grass, you can't get off it, and there's not really much of a run off there, and he's ended up in the wall, which is a shame to see. I think Pedro Silva retired in the pit lane because I did see a 5-second penalty pop up on the top of my timing board very briefly before that yellow flag, so I think he actually just dived into the pit lane and retired from the race, so that is why he is out, and we are down 4 drivers already, and we're only 3.5 laps in, so 4.5 laps in, sorry, so it's been a bit of a race of attrition so far, which is a shame, and I feel like we've already cursed ourselves with the start of this one because there has been some questionable driving standards at the back especially, but the one driver that I think would be most annoyed with the safety car is Rowan, because he had a very comfortable lead and wasn't really being challenged all that much out in front, but now Jensen, his only real championship rival in this race, is now right on the back of him and has an opportunity to try and take this race win away. So what could have been, what looked like and what could have probably been a very easy dominant win for Rowan in an extending the championship lead is now become just a little bit more complicated with the safety car call.
Yeah, definitely so. Pedro Silva, by the way, don't think it's the correct Pedro Silva, not the driver, Pedro Silva. But Pedro Silva has caught. Pedro Silva forgot setup as within preset setup, so that is why he was struggling. I think he must have done the same last week as well, because he was struggling last week as well. So forgot his setup, was set to preset by the game. Unfortunately, there Pedro Silva out of the race. Done by that comment from Pedro Silva, which is entirely confusing to me. But that might be his, I'm guessing it might be his brother or his father, potentially. Rowan out on top of Jensen second. Krypton there in third. Harry Banks? Harry is coming out the pit lane in 11th position. Dan Screen in 12th. Jeroen there in 13th. And they're actually all going on different compound tyre. Dan Screen set of mediums along with Jake Marsh. Jeroen and Tom on a set of softs. They've got to try and make up ground. And Harry has gone for a set of hard compound tyres. And that is probably the better strategy to be on, because he was on that set of mediums. And 22 laps on a set of hards. It's going to be a push, but I think he'll probably do it.
He could probably do it. It's definitely push, like you say, and I don't think they're going to have all that much pace in them at the end. But, I mean, Harry is a solid midfield driver and has been all season long. He's got solid enough pace to pull this strategy off. And I think if he can just extend them enough and maybe not push too hard to start with those that are still on the hards, if he just tacks onto the back of a DRS train, pulls himself along, saves his tyres a little bit, he should be fine. I reckon he should get to the end of the race. They're not going to be great in terms of speed, but he should be fine. So that is one thing that will definitely work in his favour. And I think as well, for the likes of Dan Spreen, Jeroen, Jake Marsh and Tom, they're at the back anyway. We know that our top 10 drivers are going to have to pit at some points in this race because they've not pitted yet. So if they can gain as many places as they possibly can before the hard runners have to pit, they can pit at the same time as the hard runners and basically just throw themselves into the middle of the pack, but having done an extra stop. So they're at the back anyway. It's a free pit stop. They can try and gain places on the hard runners and then pit at the same time when the hard runners come in as well. So it's really a no-brainer for those at the back to come in and change into a different compound tyre.
Yep, and of course, for the mandatory 2-stop, they may come back into the pit lane once again, because the safety car has only been out at least one lap. Rowan leads the way, Jensen second, Krypton in third, Service in fourth, Daniel there in fifth, Rocca, Rudy, Raphael, Akila, Kaya top 10, Harry Dan Screen, Jeroen, Jake Marsh, Tom at the top 15 that are still continuing on. 4 drivers out of the race early on, and as I said, quite rightly there, Harry into the pit lane! Jeroen nearly goes into the back of him. My goodness me, that was close from the McLaren into the pit lane. Not sure what he was thinking of doing there, but he's going to go and transition onto a set of hards. Harry back in a fresh set of mediums, and Tom looks like he's going on potentially a fresh set of medium compound tyres. It's actually a fresh set of hards as well from Tom. So they all come into the pit lane, all doing the double stack, and unfortunately, a little bit lagging on my end there, but Rowan leads the way, Jensen second, Krypton in third. We are on lap 6 out of 27. Everyone now probably going to the end of the race, you would imagine.
You would imagine, yeah, and Harry's ended up behind Jeroen and Tom, which suggests to me that Harry had some sort of damage, which is why he's come into the pit lane, maybe because he was ahead of Jeroen and Tom before, and now he's nearly 6 seconds back, so that's definitely a front wing change for Harry, so that's why he's come in again. But I was a little bit baffled by that call by Harry in the first place. Like, why would you come in having put on those hards that could go to the end of the race with a set of mediums that definitely won't, and puts you behind 2 drivers that now could go to the end of the race? It was a bizarre call. But if he did have damage that wasn't repaired at the first stop, or he picked it up under the safety car, then yeah, he may as well come in and repair it now while he's not running at full speed. So that's obviously why he's come in again. But that again puts him on the back foot now, because he's going to have to pit again, and he's going to have to do similar to what Dan Spring and Jake Marsh are doing on the mediums and try and gain places as quickly as they can, and then pit at the same time as the hard runners. So again, Harry was in a great opportunity, now isn't. One driver we now have to look out for again is Tom. So Tom's an interesting one, because it almost looks like by jumping the start, he's potentially actually put himself in a very good position strategy-wise. So we'll see what he can do, whether he can get those hard tires to the end of the race. But Tom's definitely going to be one to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. So the safety car is in this lap. I thought it wasn't coming in for a second. Now the safety car is in this lap. Rowan now virtual Bert Marlander. He is now the virtual safety car, and he is getting the race underway once again on lap 7 out of 27. I feel like we've been commentating already half an hour. That is just how lengthy the safety car and the VSC has been around this track so far. But Rowan leading the way, Jensen second, Krypton there in third. Rowan will be looking for an awesome restart launch here with Jensen alongside him. And already, I think Rowan is going to say go. Coming out the Casio Triangle. Now he says go. Coming out the Casio Triangle. Jensen right on the back of him, though. Has caught Krypton absolutely napping there in third. We're back to green flag racing. Daniel now on the back of Surface Run down toward turn 1. And look at the speed of Rudy on the back of a rocket. Tries to pull out the slipstream in towards turn 1. Doesn't look for the move. Now in towards turn number 2. Tries to think about going for the move in towards turn 2. Doesn't get the job done. Harry is through on Tom in the back end. That's coming through turns 1 and 2. So he is through on there. And that is Kyra, I think, round in the background, coming out of turn number 3 as well. But Rowan leads the way. Jensen second, Krypton third. Apart from Kyra's spin, everything good off the restart. Rowan, of course, holding the lead from Jensen, Krypton there in third. Daniel right on the back of Surface, and Rudy right on the back of a rocket, along with Raphael, who's getting into contention as well in 8th.
Yeah, good, fairly clean start from everybody apart from Kaya. Like you say, everybody else doing fairly what you would expect. It was fairly line of turn into turn 1, so they're just going to wait, I think, for the moves now. As I think Harry, Jeroen actually made a little bit of a mistake, and now we've got Dan Spreen being overtaken by Jake Marsh. Jake Marsh up into 10th. Dan Spreen's got Jeroen right behind on those fresh hard compound tyres. And look at the time Harry gained mid-corner there on the back of the McLaren. He's right back up there as well. So we'll see Harry potentially going for a move at Spoon. Actually, he's using a lot of ERS. He's going to have to go the long way around this little kink and then dive the inside of Spoon. He doesn't go for the move in the end. Jeroen leaves the gap, which puts him offline for the second part, but Harry doesn't actually go for the move, so Harry will stay behind for the time being. But now he's got the run up towards 130 yards. He's going to have to go the long way around, and I think Jeroen decides against fighting that. He knows Harry's on fresh mediums. They're not going to the end. Jeroen's potentially going to the end of this race, so he's just going to let the Red Bull driver through. Yeah, Rudy's going for the move on a rocker around the outside. Lovely move. Brilliant move from Rudy. How is he already up into 6th place in this race?
A rocker pretty much put him on the grass as well in towards the Casio Triangle. That was phenomenal stuff from Rudy. No wonder he won the race last week. And here comes Jake Marsh on the back of Aquila as well. Down in towards turn 1. Jake Marsh should get the job done. He is doing, he's into 9th position. Aquila down into 10th. Great stuff that by Rudy. That is what we should be seeing in terms of the level of driving standards every single week in WOR. Rudy, normally criticised, certainly by me, for his driving standards in the past, looking like he is coming alive here in WOR tonight and proven so from last week and indeed this week. Gets the job done. Now he's going to try and chase down the back of Daniel as well for 5th position. It's Rowan that leads the way. Jensen second, Krypton in third, Surface there in 4th, Daniel there in 5th. Really good racing so far underneath the safety car restart. Jake Marsh on the back of Raphael once again. As soon as I said that though, he's fun coming out of Deck the 2.
Yeah, he just got on the curb on the exit of the corner. It's very easy to beach the car on that exit curb as well. So I think that's what he's done and just dropped the car. That's our 3rd driver that spun there.
Harry.
Meanwhile, Harry is continuing his charge through the field round the outside of 200R, which become the inside of Spoon. Great straight line speed in that Red Bull, just as they are in real life. He's really fast in the straight line and not using too much GRS at this point. And he's up into 10th place and he's straight onto the back of the AlphaTauri sister car and into off the back of Aquila, and Aquila's just going to open the door on the inside. Harry's through and into 9th place, and that's smart, I think, from Aquila as well to not fight that one too hard, because that's an opportunity for Harry to close back in on the train in front, and Aquila can drag himself along. If he can stay there, and Dan Spreen's dropped it through 130R, that is a massive crash for the Aston Martin. He's in the wall and out of the race. Is that going to trigger another safety car? Don't think it is by the looks of things, but you don't really think of, as now Aquila's retired in the pits, I think that is, unfortunately. But yeah, you don't really think of 130R as a corner driver struggle with these modern day cars. But Dan Spreen, massive tank slapper on the exit of the corner, and that's a huge crash.
Yeah, he got the inside curb coming through 130R. and basically forced him off camber with a corner. He got caught on the sausage curve, and that is where he has gone spinning. The Aston Martin as well, the AlphaTauri Vakila nearly went spinning with him as well. I think he picked up damage and all of that, maybe left side end plate damage on the car. That's why he's came into the pit lane to retire. So unfortunately, we're now down 6 drivers, and now we get a virtual safety car for what? Absolutely nothing, because the car's just coming out of the pit lane. We're now back to green flag racing all of a sudden. I thought there was a VSC there. Rowan leads the way, Jensen in second, Krypton in third. This game gets all confusing sometimes, even for the best commentator. Daniel on the back of Surface there in 4th and 5th position. A rocker on the back of a rocker as well. Looking, a rocker on the back of Rudy, not a rocker on the back of himself. There in 7th position, he is on the back of Rudy though, trying to get that move back done, but Rowan leads the way, Jensen second, Krypton in third. The front two do look like they've got quite a lot of pace, of substantial pace over Krypton and Surface at this stage, and everything now, hopefully, for the best of times, settling down, but I think Harry's going to get the move done on Raphael maybe in towards turn 1.
Yeah, Harry's definitely the one to look for moves at the moment as Roman sets the fastest lap of the race and crucially has dropped Jensen from his DRS range. Jensen has no ERS, he's on 0 ERS at this point, so he is just going to fall further and further back now from Rowan. So Rowan's just going to drive away, I think, at the front of the field now, and Jensen looks like he's just settling into 2nd place because he's pulling away from Kryptonite but can't keep up with our race leader. And yeah, Harry now in a DRS train couldn't capitalise on Raphael's poor run out of the Casio Triangle and just had to sit there for the time being, so he's stayed behind, so he's sitting there in 9th, but he's going to have to think maybe of an unorthodox pace to overtake, maybe the hairpin, probably a better opportunity for Harry to get this move done if he wants to get a bit further up this field. But yeah, getting a little bit stuck now is Harry. And one drive I'm a little bit perplexed by is Tom on these fresh hard compound tyres isn't keeping up with those on the old hard compound tyres at the front of the field. He's falling back, which is a little bit surprising for me, considering Tom was on the front row of the grid in qualifying, unless he's another driver that's made a setup mistake when starting this race. But either way, that's a really bizarre call. Well, not bizarre call, bizarre Tom is just slowly falling away from drivers on older tyres than him.
Yeah, definitely. So Tom, I think, is obviously getting caught out by Harry and Raphael. They're running DRS range ahead, so that is why I think Tom is obviously struggling there in 10th position. And now Harry's going to go for the move on Raphael in toward 130R. To the inside line goes the Red Bull on the Alpine. Should get the job done. Sails by him. Beautiful stuff by Harry. Raphael forced off track, just off camber. And Harry Thurney's into 8th position, and he makes that move stick as Rudy's right on the back of Daniel, coming out of the bump of turn 18, on the run down towards turn 1. This might be the easiest move you'll see all night as Harry's into the pit lane, interestingly. Rudy on towards the line, in towards turn 1, gets the job done on Daniel, and he is through into 5th position. Daniel tries to give him a little bit of a bite at the backside there, and the Aston Martin on the back of the Williams, but the Williams hangs on, and Rudy, the race winner last week in Singapore, now into 5th position and doing a very good job. The wrong Talent Factory run, I think, I've chosen, because my front two currently on this mistake. And Jensen, I think, has had a huge mistake somewhere. The gap is 2.5 seconds.
I genuinely don't think it's a mistake. Roman set the fastest lap of the race last time around. Now that Jensen's added DRS range and got no ERS, he's just so much slower. And Rowan is just a lot faster at this point in the race than Jensen is, and Rowan's still got ERS in his back pocket to use. So I think Jensen, now that he's out of DRS range, is just going to fall further and further behind the Red Bull. So he's just not got as much pace as the leader at the moment. And this top 5 really splitting out now. You tend to see DRS trains around tracks like this and things, but we're not seeing that tonight really. Rowan's disappeared from Jensen's disappeared from Kryptonite. Surface is barely hanging on to DRS range to the back of Kryptonite, and Rudy, having made all of his way through the field, is now out of DRS range to Surface in front. So it's a bit of a split up field. And again, I'm baffled by this call from Harry to pit for a set of hard compound tyres after only doing 4 laps on that set of mediums. If I were him, I would extend that stint on those mediums a little bit longer, maybe go to maybe like 18 or 19. I think the mediums can easily do it around a track like this. You can get to lap 18 or 19, and that would be about 11 laps on your medium compound tyres. That is easily done around this track. And then you can pick for a set of softs for the final 7 laps or so for this race and go to the end on that. So I'm baffled by this call by Harry, and I don't think it's going to do him any good. Yeah,
perplexed, I think is the word I'm going to use, certainly. He's on that sort of hard compound tyre, unless there's maybe rain later on in the race, potentially, but why do that? He's down in 13th position. He technically had nothing to lose. Technically, the mediums weren't going to get to the end of the race. He was obviously faulted the horse a little bit earlier than necessary. He's down there in 13th position on a 13.7 seconds behind Kai, but he will, of course, catch, who Kai is still yet to come in the pit lane at this stage. Aquila, by the way, also saying in the Discord this time, he was slower than the 2015 Honda engine on the straight. Absolutely messed up my race. So he is another one that seems to be forgetting the preset setup. And I'm not sure if that might be a glitch potentially within the game. Maybe another one of 1,000 glitches that we've got in this game at this moment. So maybe now 1,001 to be added in. But Akila's saying he had pre-set up as well, and that's why he was looking quite slow. As Daniel now is looking quite slow as well. He's got a rocker right on the back of him. A rocker now with 41% of VRS. He's going to try and look the Frenchman for a job done on the Dutchman of Daniel ahead of him. The newly crowned VIR man, formerly of SXT, of course. A rocker closes into the back of him in toward the Casio triangle. I think this could be move on potentially for the Haas on the back of the Aston Martin. As soon as I say that, they'll big snap of oversteer, and that is the move gone.
Yeah, that's definitely the move gone. I think even in the DRS range, with the lack of ERS that Daniel has, a Rocket did have an opportunity there to at least close in. But yeah, that snap of oversteer in the turn 18 hasn't helped the Haas driver at all, and he's just going to fall further back because of that, which is a bit of a shame. And yeah, Rudy's got pace at the front of this queue. He's starting to drop Daniel, but because he's got no ERS in his back pocket to use, he can't close in. You can't close in on surface and kryptonite because all the time he's getting in the corners, he's using a bucket load in the straights to the drivers in front. So it's not really working at the moment for Rudy at this point, that is. And by the way, those drivers that have ended up on a preset setup, that is simply because when we had the lobby restart, of course, you don't load in with your setups. You have to choose your own setup before we start the race, and it's clear that drivers have forgotten that and have just decided to go with a preset setup rather than actually running their own one, which is a little bit of a rookie error. So yeah, that's why that is the case, as Rudy seems to now will be potentially just about to drop Daniel from his DRS range here, which will leave Daniel very vulnerable to a rocker and to Raphael behind. Raphael's not too far behind either, so if a rocker gets the move done this lap, then Raphael could get the move done the next lap after that. So that'll be Daniel down a couple of places, unfortunately, if you can't get back into DRS range. And by the looks of things, I don't think you can.
Yeah, Daniel's certainly in sixth position, is really struggling now in terms of his pace. As I mentioned, even a lap to go, 41% of VRS now for a rocker on the back of Daniel, who's not going to have DRS this time around. This looks pretty easy for the Frenchman. If he doesn't have a big snap of oversteer here, which he doesn't this time, this should be clean sailing down in towards turn 1. And look at the speed already. As if he has just been shot out of a cannon, a rocker passes Daniel without really breaking sweat, to be honest. In towards turn 1, he's through, and he's into P6. Daniel, of course, is stronger through the corner, so maybe he can come back, obviously, as a result of that. Degwash and Kai, by the way, are into the pit lane as well. They're having their own private battle at the back end of the field. They realise they're not going to get to the end of the race at all. You're on the back of Tom. Tom is the interesting one in all of this. He's obviously around 10 seconds off the race lead at this stage. It's 10.7 seconds off the race lead. The guys ahead, every single one of them has to pit into the end of the race. Tom and Yaron don't really have to pit. Yaron has got a 3-second penalty, obviously, for corner cutting, so that's going to be coming back. But Tom and Yaron, there is a distinct possibility here, Aiden, that they could lead by as much as 10, 15 seconds, potentially.
Yeah, they definitely could. I think Tom, maybe the reason why he was struggling a little bit earlier on to keep up with the hard one is potentially because he is just saving his tyres a little bit so that they can definitely get to the end. But you can see him starting to slowly creep back into the picture now in that ninth position, dragging Yaron with him. Like you say, Yaron's time penalty not helping at this point in the race. But if we do go safety car free to the end of this race, then Tom's got a great opportunity to get to the end of this race on this compounded tyres. It's whether the medium tyres that these drivers will pit onto have enough pace that they can re-catch Tom and pass him by the end of the race. I'm just looking, by the way, after Jake Marsh and Kai's pit stops. Of course, Jake Marsh and Kai had both had a spin, and they've come back out of the pit lane, and Jake Marsh is only 5 seconds behind Harry. So Harry's pit stop, for me, just proves there that even with a spin for Jake Marsh has managed to pit and is still only 5 seconds behind Harry. So Harry, I think, as soon as those medium tyres are up to temperature for Jake Marsh, Harry's just going to get caught so quickly on those tyres, which again baffles me as to why he's made this strategy call. So I think Harry, now you can kind of count him out as a factor in this race unless we get another late safety car, as Daniel's pitted now for his medium compound tyres. And I don't think that's a shock. We saw him starting to drop off the drivers around him. He'd just been passed by a rocker. He was about to get passed by Raphael. He's decided not to take the ego blow, and he's decided to pit. And even with Harry's 5-lap undercut on Daniel, Daniel has still come out ahead. But as I say, he drops the car out of turn 2 on cold tyres, and that is Daniel's potentially good run in the solid points position potentially gone because of that spin. But either way, it goes to prove that even with a 5-lap undercut, Harry gained nothing by pitting that early.
Yep, and Daniel spun again, coming to the F section, and that's, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call an Aiden Carter commentator's curse. Rowan out on top from Jensen in second, Krypton there in third, and Surface now on the back of Krypton is looking quite interesting. He's got 14% of EOS compared to Krypton, who was on 22%. So Krypton's got distinctly more at this stage than Surface, but Surface has got a little bit more pace, I think, than Krypton at this stage. Coming through 130R, looking quite strong. He's there in fourth position at this moment in time, only 7/10 of a second off. Hopefully going to try and get the move done sooner rather than later. Are the leaders coming into the pit lane? No, they stay at least one more lap at this stage. You'd expect somebody like a Rocker, who was going to say coming in the pit lane, he is coming in the pit lane, nearly hits the wall on the left-hand side on the braking into the pit lane. That is so hard to get right, I think, in this pit lane around this track. I've seen somebody lose a front wing as a result of going into that little bit of a stretch out in the barrier. Harry, by the way, is coming through the Castle Triangle now. Rocker's on the exit of the pit lane. This is going to be quite close if we can keep the camera angle. Tyre picks up a 3-second penalty. Rocker's going to be ahead. Harry now, FER Harry, is there in 10th position, 1.8 seconds behind. This is the worst place, potentially, to catch a driver coming through this S section.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst place. We'll see how quickly a Rocker can warm those medium compound tyres up. But again, Harry was behind a Rocker before his pit stop and 6 laps undercut. Harry is still behind a Rocker, and this strategy just hasn't worked. The hard tyres don't have a pace drop off at this track. This is one of those tracks where tyre wear isn't really a factor. It's very easy on tyres because we run such hard compounds around this track. The tyre wear isn't that big of a problem. So going for a fresh set of hards that were 5 laps younger than those that haven't pitted yet isn't really going to make any difference in terms of pace. So it's not worked for Harry. Harry will be comfortably within DRS range, but if a Rocker can stay ahead, his tyres will be up to temperature by the end of this lap, and he could easily drop that Red Bull in the S section on the next lap. So we'll see what a Rocker can do. I wouldn't be surprised to see Rudy in on this lap just to try and get a bit of an undercut on the drivers in front and close down that gap, but he's decided not to pit. None of the leaders have decided to pit, actually, which is interesting to me because there's only 11 laps to go. It'll be 10 when they next cross the line. I would have expected them to pit for mediums. I'm guessing now these leaders are going to come in for soft compound tyres, but if they are, they're going to have to go maybe 3 laps longer on these compounded tyres, and I don't think that's also going to be great. Surface has just dropped the car and reset to track in just a need, but Surface, who was running comfortably in 4th, right behind Kryptonite, has just dropped the car and he's now down behind Tom and Jeroen. So, yeah, not great for Surface. He's now out of a potential podium position in this race.
And to be honest, Rowan, looking at the gap to the leader, I've just flicked on board there. It's 11 seconds now between Rowan and Tom. Tom is actually losing tiny amounts of time out on track to Rowan. It's only 0.3 of a second from when we last looked, and that was about 4 laps ago. So Tom and Jeroen have only lost 0.3 of a second basically on the leaders. That comes to show the hard drop-off is not really that potent around this track, and they can just keep going, powering on lap upon lap upon lap, and that is what we are seeing, certainly from Rowan, certainly from Jensen. But looking at Rowan, he's used up a bit more EOS this time around. I would not be surprised if he decides to come in the pit lane and maybe even put on a set of soft compound tyre, because that is what I think they're going to go for in terms of the strategy. It is baffling to me if they go mediums, because 10 laps on a set of softs probably can last, and Rowan, quite rightly, is into the pit lane. Jensen is going to follow him in as well. Krypton into the pit lane, actually stays out, so Krypton stays out. Rudy is in as well, but Rowan into the pit lane. Set of medium compound tyres goes on. Is anybody going to bite the bullet and go on the red wall? No, Jensen goes for set of mediums. And Rudy is coming into the pit lane along with Surface, who's also came in the pit lane after that spin. Now puts Tom and Jeroen into net P2 and P3. Rudy out the pit lane. He also goes on for a set of medium compounded tyres. But Jeroen to Rowan, the gap coming out the pit lane is 10 seconds. And that's going to be even more when they get up to temperatures. It's going to be around 11.5 seconds, I would think, in terms of hards to mediums. 10 laps for Rowan to try and get that job done. Basically got to catch a second a lap. Can he do it?
It's definitely within reach for Rowan, but I think it's not going to be plain sailing, especially if Jeroen can keep within DRS range of Tom and they can still form a train. It's going to be difficult for Rowan, I would say. I think anyone beyond Rowan, it's not looking likely, I would say, because I don't think, like we said, the hard drop-off isn't that big. I don't think the mediums are going to be that much faster, if we're honest about this. I don't think the mediums are going to be that much faster than the hard compound tyre. We know Rowan as a driver is faster than Tom and Jeroen, so that will definitely make up the difference. But for drivers like Jensen and Rudy, I think they're just a little bit too far back at this point. I mean, Aroka had a 2-lap undercut on Rudy and didn't really gain on Rudy, so I don't really see how this is going to work at the moment, as I think Kaya's gone for another spin, unfortunately further down the field in 13th, but is still going. But yeah, I don't really know. I think if I was Rowan and Jensen, I would have pitted 2 laps earlier to give yourself more time on these medium compound tyres to try and get this move done and make it a bit more comfortable. I think by pitting so late onto these medium compound tyres, yes, they will be a little bit faster, but they've given themselves a bigger task and having to gain more per lap. So I think they should have pitted a couple laps earlier and made it a bit safer for themselves, but they've decided to go for this. So we'll see if they can catch him, as Kryptonite has pitted. So everybody has now made their mandatory stops in this race. And Kryptonite, having stayed out an extra lap compared to Rudy and Aroka, comes out of the pit lane, still ahead of Rudy and Aroka.
Yeah, and only barely ahead, I've got to say, ahead of Rudy. It's 0.5 of a second. Rudy on a fresh set of mediums, warmer set of mediums compared to Krypton. Rudy's going to be on the back of him, maybe in towards the Degler section here. Look at the speed he's carrying through the corners, through the S section. There is a spinner, that's Kaya actually retiring into the pit lane. So Kaya retiring in his pit box in the pit lane. Tom leads the way, Rowan there in second, Rowan there in third, with Jensen there in fourth. Rudy through the first sector, 300s down in the first sector, right on the back of Krypton. If I know Rudy, he might lunge one into the hairpin potentially, but Krypton used up the ERS, and really does not go for the move, so he's not channeling me in towards the hairpin, maybe causing a little bit of contact, I think, in this point. That's why I'm a commentator and not a driver, and that is probably why you'll never see me on gracing the grid on a PS platform ever again. Tom, Jeroen now 7 seconds over Rowan. That yellow flag is so annoying coming out the pit lane from Kai's perspective, and Rowan 7 seconds behind Jeroen and Tom. He has got the bit between his teeth, quite literally, and he's closing in absolutely rapidly. And it looks like, to me, Rowan is going to get Tom and Jeroen even before the final lap of this race.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying us at 30.6. That's a mega lap there from Rowan. It's still only 1.1 seconds faster than his best lap on the hards, but it's still a mega lap there from Rowan. So yeah, it does look like he's just going to close in and pass them, doesn't he? He's looking very strong for the Red Bull driver, but at the same time, Rowan's managed to drop Jensen by over half a second on that lap as well, so I don't think Jensen has enough pace at this point in the race to catch and pass Tom and Jeroen if it stays like this. So it does look like at the moment Rowan is making the difference at this point in the race, and he's absolutely flying on these medium compound tyres. I mean, he's gained 0.7 of a second in the first sector alone on the 2 in front, but crucially, that was 0.2 slower than his previous laps. That's already a 0.2 drop off in the first sector on those medium compound tyres. So we'll see what Rowan could do. I think he will catch them. Will the medium tyres, though, drop off when he gets there? Will he start to lose that edge, or will he be able to keep up that relentless pace and close in?
Yeah, who knows? Raphael on the back of a rocker is an interesting battle. P7 and P8. Raphael just sliding his way out of 200R, and now coming down in towards Spoon Curve. Tom out on top, Jeroen in second. Rowan there currently in third, 5.3 seconds. He's getting another 1.5 seconds over Jeroen and Tom just this lap around as Kaya has left the session. Raphael, though, the Alpine, his teammate, on the back of a rocker. This looks quite easy for Raphael potentially. On the back from up the hill, down the straight into 130R. This looks on for Raphael on the back of a rocker. And the Hatsman at this moment in time just looks a sitting duck, you would imagine, at the stage. Bit sideways there from a rocker, and again out the Casio triangle. This should be on for Raphael. Just needs to be even a little bit of ERS to get this job done. Absolutely sails on by. And do you know what? I think Harry's going to try and get the job done as well. Closing very rapidly on the back of a rocker. Going to risk it down into turn 1. FPR against FPR. Thought he was going to risk it down the inside line. You don't want the team manager hitting one of your own drivers. Harry on the back of a rocker, 8th and 9th position, and they remain as they are. But Harry had so much closing speed, and that proves the point that the hards are really not dropping off from Harry's perspective as well.
Yeah, they're really not, and it's amazing you can keep up with a rocker, since obviously a rocker came out the pit lane directly in front, and in 5 laps on his medium tyres, a rocker's not dropped Harry. So these medium tyres don't look that great, do they? They don't seem like that great of a tyre. I mean, I'm just going to check the race director for lap times between Tom, or last time around, and the lap before. So it's a 32.7 on that previous lap from Tom in the race lead, and that last lap around, a 31.5 for Rowan at that time. And by the way, that previous lap from Rowan, a 31.5, was 9/10 slower than the lap previous where he set the fastest lap of the race. That was already within 1 lap a 9/10 drop off in pace. I don't know whether that's just drop off in pace or whether Rowan's tyres were starting to overheat a bit. This lap is definitely a bit more competitive from his side of things compared to his own personal best, but it's still not really anywhere near his personal best lap. So again, I think these mediums are these kind of tyres where you can get a really great lap out of them. Rowan's going to do a 30.9 that time around, which is a strong lap from Rowan, but it's almost like he has a lap on where he uses a bit of ERS and pushes, and then the next lap he has to back off a bit because the tyres are overheating.
Yeah, and looking at Jensen as well, in behind. Jensen not really involved in this. He's 3.8 seconds behind on Rowan. He just seems in a different league at this stage. As a rocker catches the back of Raphael and towards turn number 1. But Jensen, comparison to Rowan's lap, it was a 31.5. So Jensen is losing consistently around 6 or 7 tenths per lap at this stage to Rowan. Rowan is gaining 6 or 7 tenths per lap now out on track. And his tyre wear now is beginning to wear off slightly. It's only slightly. It's 2.9 seconds. He's still going to catch them before the end of the race. But, as one famous commentator famously said, catching them is one thing, overtaking is another.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think with the potential overheating and the already the drop off in pace we're seeing from the medium tyres, like I say, I think Rowan will catch them by the end of the race. But will he have enough of a tyre advantage to get past Jeroen and Tom? I mean, of course, Jeroen's got the penalty, so he's not really a factor in this race. But for track position, it is crucial that Rowan passes Jeroen, because if he doesn't pass Jeroen, then Tom has a gap between himself and his potential challenger for the race victory, and it won't be really a fight in that sense between Tom and Rowan, because there's a car in between them. So Rowan needs to get past Jeroen, and if he can catch them but not pass them, then that's really going to be a problem, unfortunately, for Rowan. It's again a solid lap there, a 30.9 from the Red Bull driver, so he's continuing to close in, but Jensen's now over 4 seconds back, so he just continues to fall further and further away. Like I say, yeah, Rowan is catching them. There's 5 laps to go, including this one, so he will catch them, but has he got enough overspeed now to catch Jeroen and pass him, and then pass Tom for the race win within 5 laps? It's possible, but I think it's going to be a bit more difficult than we first predicted.
Yeah, I think it's very doable still. Rowan has just gained 2.5 tenths of a second coming out of Dunlop Curve, and he's looking very, very strong indeed. Coming through the first sector, now through the deckers at the middle sector. Tom, Jeroen currently leading the way. Honestly, if I was Tom, and Jeroen was with me in a party, I'd say, right, let's work together. Let's try and gap Rowan out so we don't let him within our DRS range. And that's what Tom is trying to do. Running down the straight literally has got, I think, the sense of me just saying that on the stream. Maybe got me in the background. Hello, Tom, if you are listening, just in the chat in the background. But Tom leading the way, Jeroen in second, Rowan there in third. But honestly, I think these two now need to try and gap out Rowan back beyond a second, because this looks inevitable that Rowan is going to catch within a second in the next 2 laps, I would say. And Jeroen has got to try and work with Tom at this stage. They've got to use up the ERS to try and gap them. And look at what they're doing. They're working together now. 1.7 seconds. This is exactly what they need to do. But they need to do this lap upon lap upon lap right to the end of the race. We start lap 24. Tom leading the way. Jeroen in second. Rowan in third. 3-way fight for the race lead is going to happen. And Rowan can't gain down the straight. He loses around 4 tenths of a second down the straight just because of the DRS factor from Tom and Jeroen. And Jeroen on the back of Tom. This, as you say, Aiden, is not over and done with just yet from Tom and Jeroen's perspective. It looks inevitable, but as I said a little bit earlier on, overtaking, getting to on the back of them is one thing, overtaking is quite another as Rowan. Now, within a second, Jeroen and Tom now seriously have to work together.
Yeah, they really do. Rowan's obviously the pace advantage Rowan has is all in that first sector. Is all we've had. Yeah, I think we've had. Rocker's got no front wing, so Rocker's gone off the road and has had a crash with Raphael, potentially coming back onto the track. Yeah, and he's let Jake Marsh through as he has, but yeah, Rocker no front wing on that car, which is a bit of a shame. So he's now dropped out, and that puts Surface back into a net P7 in this race after his earlier spin. Rowan's got so much more pace in the first sector, but you can't really overtake in the first sector. It's all about the last sector pretty much on this track if you want to get the move done. And the problem is that Tom and Jeroen do have a little bit of an ERS advantage over Rowan at this point in the race, but you can see Rowan's going to try and use it down this back straight. He's going to go the long way around of 130R. He doesn't even need to do that. Interestingly, Jeroen decides not to fight it. He decided to let that one go, which I'm a bit perplexed by, because if he held on to it, then he could have held him back for another lap. But crucially, Rowan was just derating ever so slightly there before the braking zone, but I think that's just left the door open for him to have a clean run now at Tom. I think Jeroen potentially is, I think Jeroen's just kind of given up on that one without really trying by the looks of things.
Yeah, with that 3-second penalty overhanging him as well, he knows he's done wrong with that 3-second penalty. But I think it's interesting because he can stick within DRS range. They haven't got any worries at all with Jensen. 4.5 seconds behind. Jeroen doesn't look like he's got the pace. Maybe those tyres have overheated. But look at Rowan compared to Tom. Even through the yes section, he's looking quick. And do you know what? I thought he was going to go for the move down towards turn 6 there at the right-hander. As a rocker speeds into Victor, he has done an out of this race. But Rowan and Tom, now his teammate, and Rocker's teammate Tom, leads the way from Rowan there in second. They're pulling away from Jeroen in third. Jensen is now catching 3.7 seconds to the back of Jeroen. Jensen is now beginning to get a second win, and he is beginning to get into contention as well. But Rowan at this moment in time just has to sit patiently, wait in behind Tom, and look for the pouncing action, as he was a bit snappy coming out of the hairpin there, through 200R, now towards Spoon Curve. Tom, Rowan, Jeroen. This is Tom for a three-way fight. It looks to me, though, at this current moment in time, it's only going to go one way. As they come out to Spoon Curve once again. Tom leading the way from Rowan in second. What is Rowan going to decide to do? Is he going to wait in behind on Tom, go for the move on the final lap of the race? Because if he goes now, he has got the pace to try and pull away, but he's always at the threat of Tom coming back with him in the DRS. So that is what Rowan has got to weigh up now into the Casio Triangle. Coming through the right hand of the Casio Triangle, through the left hander, now on the exit. This looks on for the Red Bull. This looks an absolute no contest. You may as well call the fight off now, as Rowan on the back of Tom, down the straight to the inside line, gets the job done. Does he go a lap early? We'll find out in a lap's time, but Rowan takes the lead of the race through turn number 1. Tom there in second, Jeroen there in third. Easy as you like for Rowan, and now surely he's just going to pull away.
Yeah, I think so. He's just got so much more pace, especially in the first sector.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. He's already dropped him already. Over a second, he's dropped him. So, yeah, Rowan's gone. Those hard tyres are on their last legs now. And Jeroen, unfortunately for him, is now dropping out of into penalty range of Jensen, which will knock Jeroen off the podium, which is a bit of a shame, unfortunately, for the McLaren driver. But Jensen will still salvage the podium from this race, and that should put him closer. Well, it will drop him further away from Rowan, but it will put Jensen closer to second place in the championship, which is good for Jensen at least. In that sense, yeah, you could, like you say, you could catch them, yeah, because Tom and Jeroen's all of a sudden have completely fallen off in their pace. It's almost like they've hit a cliff on these hard compound tyres, because their pace was okay. They were still setting personal bests compared to their personal best times. They were running in the very low 32s, almost into the high 31s, but now all of a sudden their pace has disappeared. So I think they've just hit a cliff on these hard compound tyres. They're at their last legs. There's only one lap to go, so I don't think Jensen has enough time to be able to capitalise on Tom here, but I think the worry now for Jeroen is dropping down to 5th or 6th potentially. If the hard tyres are that bad on the final lap, could he drop behind Kryptonite and Rudy? And actually, I think Jeroen here is going to think about getting past Tom on track, and that would leave Tom very vulnerable to Jensen on the final lap.
I think they're going to leave them both very vulnerable, I think, to Jensen on the final lap. Governed by Jensen's first sector, he looked very, very quick through that first sector last time around. And now onto the final lap, Jeroen is going to attack Tom in toward turn 1. Doesn't care, he's got a 3-second penalty, flies on by. Tom, I think, has he got a puncture? He has, he's got a left front puncture.
Oh, yeah.
Left front puncture for Tom. This was the worry. This was the big, real worry, as Tom is now going to hold up Jensen into the back, coming through the S section, and Jensen just about gets round him, but a left side front puncture for Tom. That has done his race in. Is Jeroen now going to do the same? He'll be thinking, if that's happened to him, that is going to happen to me potentially. Is Jensen going to catch before the end of the race, though? 1.5 seconds. Jeroen is on an absolute cliff edge at this stage, as if he's driving like Bambi on ice at this stage, the Haas man. Jensen pretty much has got a fresh compound tyre, and he's now catching them as Thomas spun. Coming through the deck the 2, he as well has now pretty much got out of contention. Rudy right into the back of Krypton, coming into the hairpin, tries to get the job done on the switchback. Doesn't get the job done. Slight bit of contact there from them both. Jensen, though, now on the back of Jeroen. This is not over and done with for second. This is only going to go one way, because obviously Jensen hasn't got a penalty unless he picks one up here. Rowan has looked absolutely effortless out in front. Now Jensen's going to try and go for Jeroen, maybe through the 130R complex. It's 5.1 seconds to the gap. You can ignore the leader at this stage. Jeroen and Jensen now up the straight, and Jeroen's going to puncture, and he just about avoids him. Jensen just about avoids him, coming through the fastest part of the track. Rowan now through the final corner to take the win here in Japan, which looked quite effortless in the end. Jensen to the line is going to finish in second, and Jeroen is squirreling his car with a right rear puncture to the line to finish in third. He's out of the podium in the end, with Krypton on the podium for the first time in a little while. Rudy there in fourth, Jeroen there in fifth, and side by side, 3 wide to the line Tom, Surface and Harry, 3 wide, one of them on the grass. Surface and Tom separated by 600ths of a second in the end, and Harry in the end was off grass, pretty much got forced out wide, I think, by 3 wide, coming through the Casio Triangle and coming through the final corner. Daniel now to the line. He nearly smashes himself into the wall there in 11th and out of the points in the end. And what was a very chaotic Japanese Grand Prix. Driving standards improved as the race went on. Rudy is awarded driver of the day by the in-game fans. But I think from us, there is only one man and one man only that's going to get our driver of the day, and that is the man at the top of the podium, and that is Rowan, who, in the end, given that he had to try and make up 10 seconds, made it look quite effortless.
Yeah, definitely did, and that was a proper cliff, wasn't it, at the end there for Jeroen and Tom. I do feel bad for them because they were one lap away from making that strategy work and getting away with a podium finish, and in the end, neither of them did because of that final lap, which is a real shame for both of them. But still, 4th and 5th with 2 punctures for the pair of them is not bad going, considering where they both were at the start of the race. Jeroen had spun on the first lap and Tom had a drive-through, so it's still a good recovery. Obviously not what they would have wanted in the end, but yeah, crazy race. And Rowan again, that's 6 races this season that he's partaken in, and he's won now 5 of them, and gets the fastest lap point as well, and was on pole. It's pretty much a domination again from Rowan, and every time we think someone's going to jump into this championship fight and get closer to the front, Rowan comes back in and puts them in their place again. And I think the lack of every other championship rival being here in the likes of Namaya and Stefan and Karafalidis and all that stuff is, again, I think just put Rowan comfortably back in the lead of this championship with 3 rounds to go.
Yep, but Jensen, I think, more crucially, moves into 2nd in the championship, if I'm not mistaken. So that now puts him maybe on a footing with Rowan to try and give him a fight, at least some sort of a fight, into the final 3 rounds of the championship. But Rowan takes the win. In the end, Grand Slam, pole position, fastest lap, race win, looked effortless, job done. Jensen in 2nd, Krypton there in 3rd. Rudy in the end in 4th and 18th on the grid. Great drive from Rudy, was very clean tonight as well. Jeroen in 5th, Tom there in 6th, Surface there in 7th, only rate separated by 600ths of a second in the end. Jake Marsh, Harry and Raphael complete the points with Daniel in 11th. Aroka Kai, Akila, Dan Stream, Pedro Silva, Lime Violet, Jerry and Smalley, all DNFing out of the race in what was a very chaotic start, certainly to that Japanese Grand Prix. But the standards of driving did improve, and really, it was quite a thrilling end with the punctures and everything at the end. Tom, by the way, Jensen, by the way, to Tom in the Discord, bit of a funny comment this. World's best roadblock at the line there, I see. So, that is no love lost, I think, between Jensen and Tom, certainly in terms of their racing out on track. Myself and Aiden do have to go very soon, but we are, I think, on a break week next week. We are indeed on a break week next week, looking at the calendar. And then we go to one of my favourite tracks to commentate on this game. It is Mexico. It's the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. And Aiden, hopefully, we're going to get scenes like we saw in LOE of maybe an overtake around the outside of turn number 4.
Hopefully, maybe. It would definitely be very interesting to see what we can see there at Mexico. And I think, like I mentioned earlier on, Mexico is probably one of the only tracks where this system of being able to choose your tyres now actually could have an effect on the race strategy. So I think there is definitely potential that we could see drivers trying a 2-stop at Mexico because the tyre wear can be quite high. So that is definitely going to be one thing to look out for. The hards aren't a great tyre at Mexico. You don't lose too much in the pit lane there. It's really easy to overtake. So if there's ever a track where we're going to benefit from this new tyre system of choosing the tyres in qualifying, Mexico is the place. So that's going to be something to look out for. Are we going to see drivers trying something different now that they've got more options available to them? And hopefully we do. I hope we do see a few drivers at least try a 2-stop strategy on genuine pace without any safety car intervention and see if it works. Yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see, of course, in Mexico, of course, celebrating Halloween on the Day of the Dead situations. Fireworks went off here, of course, tonight in Japan. Fireworks, of course, are to be had tomorrow night with Bonfire Night here, certainly in the UK. And God help us, because we're actually racing and commentating at the same time tomorrow night, which is going to be very annoying with all the fireworks certainly going off in the background. But there we are. That rounds us up very neatly, I think, for WR tonight. If you did like the stream, like, comment, subscribe, take that notification bell, of course, if you're brand new to the channel. PC Tier 4 action, I think, is coming, if I'm not mistaken, on Sunday, and that is going to be at 8 PM UK time here on the WR channel, so you can tune in for that if you want to. And we are going to end off the stream right here. A big thank you to Mr. Aidan Carter once again for joining me in the commentary box. A pleasure, as always. We are going to leave you, of course, with our sponsors, Grid Finder. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.